funny. I never used to think about the fact about loving myself. I just wasn't that guy. The thing about loving myself actually came when I hit rock bottom. And I really hit bottom, and it was a desperate attempt to save myself. And in this desperate moment, I made this vow to myself. I vowed to love myself. And it was a longer vow, but it was about loving myself. Where that came from, I had no idea. I still don't. It was a pure primal vow. It came from like a deep place of literally I was trying to save myself. When I realized that, I don't know how to do that. And I got to figure out, because I made a commitment to myself, and a vow to yourself is a sacred act. Yep. You do that, you keep it, and life will change. And I had to figure out how to do it. It's an internal thing. It's a mindset. It's a belief. It's a rock solid belief where your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions rise from. If they rise from there, then your life rises from there. There is no perfection. That's very important to realize. It's not like, oh, now I've hit it. You're just doing the work. Every day, just doing the work. And it compounds. And before you know it, it's running on its own. And there's no failure either. If you're doing the work, you're succeeding. We're human beings, right? And fundamentally, like the mind, we're stuck with the human mind, this monkey brain that runs around on this untamed horse, right? The details differ, but I think the core is the same. And fundamentally, it's fear and love. You can't fight fear. Like fear, it's a concept that I've learned is that, light and darkness. You can't fight darkness. Darkness is the absence of light. So what you do is you work on the light, you bring the light in, and that takes away the darkness. Yeah. And so that's something I actually really learned on my own in trying to save myself, was if I worked on the light, it would take care of the rest. And that's love. Love is ultimately light. When you feel love, you feel light. There's a lightness inside, for lack of a better word. It's a fundamental truth.
And then from there, where do you go?
Honestly, I felt like at that time, I remember I was in my apartment, and I felt like a crazy man. I was just trying everything in my head, because I was like, okay, I can't do this from the outside because I feel miserable on the inside. So I was like, okay, I feel miserable on the inside. What's going to make that better? I'm just going to start telling myself this and see what happens there. So I just started repeating it to myself. I love myself. I love myself. And I just started doing it. And almost because I had nothing else to do, nothing else while I was trying to figure out. And I noticed it started to shift my thoughts. First of all, what it did was it stopped the other thoughts. Your mind focuses on one thing at a time. It's a horse. You guide it to where you want it to go. I noticed after a few days, something in me started to shift a bit. Like it was actually started to run on its own a little. And then I tricked it. I added feeling to it. Where I just and look, we can make ourselves feel anything we want. And that was the game changer. I started adding feel. I just used to breathe in deep and feel it inside, because why not? I had nothing to lose.
I think a really valuable part of the book that you say is maybe when you first start telling yourself that, you don't really believe it and it's really hard to feel it.
Yeah, it's a step-by-step thing. And I realized that because if you do it too fast, your mind, it'll fight back. All these old patterns and the old demons will come up. So the best thing is do it just step by step. You deepen the groove, you feel it, then you add feel. You feel that, oh, something's shifting, then you add the next. And it's very gentle. Yeah. And it's all you're doing is, the mind's all over the place all during the day anyway. You're just shifting it, training it to go a certain way. So I started doing that, and then I was doing it all sorts of things. I was doing it outside. I was doing it in my head. I was doing all these, trying other variations, and just I kept on coming back to this simple one, just making myself feel love for myself, adding a feeling of light coming in as I did that with the breath. And then when I breathe out, naturally I noticed gratitude. I would start feeling grateful. That came out of nowhere. That became the natural response from being in that state. And then, I started meditating, and I'm honestly quite lazy about meditating. So I kind of hacked it a bit, where I just would listen to one particular song, which was a classical piece of music. And it was 7 minutes long. And I would just do the same thing, but while listening to the song and meditating. And I noticed that after maybe about a week or so, the moment I put the song on, my mind would go into that state. I was just anchoring the state of mind to that music. So I made that a practice, added that in. Then another thing was I was doing in front of the mirror, and I realized if I looked at my left eye and I did it loud, it was powerful. The mind is strong. The training of the mind, the old self is strong, and it'll kick in. And it's just doing the work, getting up and doing the work, And it compounds, man. It really compounds. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And when you started noticing it, doing it on its own, when you just walk around feeling it, that's a beautiful place to be.
If you don't feel like you deserve to love yourself, you're going to have a hell of a time loving yourself. You can still do it, but forgiving yourself is really important.
Yeah, it's actually not something I did in the beginning. It's something I came up with later, and I realized I needed to do that. And, I'm a big believer in everything starts from within. If you want to love others, love yourself first. If you want to forgive others, forgive yourself first. You can't set others free without you freeing yourself first. So and I'm someone who's always just working on his mind and trying to figure out how to be better. And I just came up with this little practice of how to forgive myself, and it worked. And again, it was a very simple thing. A lot of it's actually just a metaphor. And I realized, look, if I'm going to create a practice out of it that I'm going to share with others, as I do in the book, then here's how you do it. Before you start everything, first forgive yourself. Let go of the past. And now you can step in the future by making a vow and then doing the practice. And the self-forgiveness was very simple. I was living in California, and I drove out in my car to this Pescadero, which is a beautiful lighthouse there in Northern California, ocean over there, and hiked out to the water. And I just sat there and I pulled out my journal and I wrote down, I forgive myself, but I wrote down, for everything I was holding against myself. I forgive myself for, wrote it. I forgive myself for, wrote it, felt it, wrote it, felt it, wrote it, felt it, wrote it, felt it, until I was done. And then I actually I read it out loud again and again to feel the weight of what I was carrying. When you realize when you feel the weight of what you've been carrying, all the unnecessary garbage, you want to drop it. You're like, I don't want this anymore, right? And there's something about writing with a pen on paper. There's a power in there. There's a declaration there. So I did that again and again until I was ready to let go. Then I just hiked out to the ocean and then balled it up and just give it over. Give it over to bigger than me. Whatever's bigger than me, just take it. Because that can handle it. I can't, but that can.
Sure.
Right? And it does. And then I realized this is the perfect time to write the vow. Because I recommit to myself occasionally,
sure.
right? And this is the perfect time to write the vow. I've just let go of the past. Let me create my future. So let me write a vow to love myself and the way I'm going to love myself in the future. And then set out to do it. So it's like it was a beautiful little transition. And I think it just took what I had done before to such a great level that now, anytime I write down the vow, I do the self-forgiveness exercise. And you don't need to go by an ocean or anything. You can throw in the toilet, in the garbage. You can burn it. You can burn it.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. It's the intention. You're letting go. You're giving it over. Actually, last time I did it, I think I threw it in the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
Done, gone. Like I've given it over. I've dropped the weight. Time to actually fly.